Hello, and welcome to Look Down There, the show where we talk about all the things we don't talk about. I'm your host, Michelle Lamore. Welcome to season 2, everyone. We are kicking it off just right. My guest today is a Los Angeles-based performer who was born in South Korea and adopted by a Japanese American family. Her work centers on the themes of psychic boundaries, sexuality, and permanence. She is the co-producer of the show Sacred Wounds, an online hit that explores ritual, subverting cultural stereotypes, and the ancestral healing of Asian performers. Please welcome my guest, Kayla Tonke, aka Coco Ono.
Hi.
Hello. So wonderful to see you, Coco.
Yeah.
I always love doing shows with you because you're just so magnetic on stage. Like you just have this power of stillness that is so magnetic. And I always appreciate when performers are just still and they just look into your soul. And that is you. And I love it.
Thank you so much. I could say the same about you. You are also magnetic. So this is, really cool being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, fantastic. It's an honor. So there's so much to talk about here, but before we get into, who you are today, I want to know who you were. So tell me about your upbringing and your background.
My upbringing, a little bit that you mentioned, I was born in South Korea and adopted by a Japanese American family to Central California. And
how old were you when that happened?
I was 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's been quite a journey. My adopted mother passed away when I was just getting into high school. So that was, pretty sad point in terms of like being a teenager and, figuring out your sexuality. And then her sister, who I was really close with, had passed away a year before. So it was like all these women in my life. So I think, high school was like a really tough time for me to figure out who I was. But I met an amazing group of friends who I, basically credit for giving me a makeover. Just giving me kind of like a community. I got introduced to a lot of like performance, a lot of amazing music. And I think, that time really shaped me. So I moved to LA after high school, and it's just been kind of an interesting journey to performance, but I started performing in 2005. So I'd been here for a few years. And then it really started with stripping, and other points of entry into sex work. And, I think that eventually, I guess, led me to burlesque and performance art. So I feel like it's definitely been a journey.
Yeah, it always is, right?
It's never linear.
It's full of twists and turns and ups and downs and all of that.
And still is.
It still is. Yeah. The journey never ends, truly is the thing. Did you know that you were adopted the whole time that you were with your family? Were they very open about that?
They were always very open.
That's great.
In fact, they just made it a point for us to hang out with other adoptees. Just from the beginning, I never remember not being adopted.
Mm-hmm.
So, they were always very open about it. So I think that was, for me, it was pretty great to have these conversations. But it's, it still didn't prevent some of the kind of like identity questions that I had. I think no matter how supportive your family is, your adoptive family, like you're still gonna, you have questions and wonder where you came from especially well, for me and at that age, I think.
Were you ever able to connect with your biological mother, or do you have interest in doing that?
I tried. I tried in 2011. I went to Korea, and yeah, and we were supposed to meet, and then I get there, and she couldn't do it. And so, yeah, I basically, how old was I? I think I was 20, turning 29. So I basically spent my birthday with a bunch of strangers in a country that I don't remember at all. So it was like a very surreal situation. And like I loved my time there. I loved, taking tours and meeting other adoptees. But I think it was like so traumatic that when I got back, I literally didn't want to talk about it for years. And until 2017, I made a film with my friend Luca, and we basically just went on this another journey into kind of like home videos that I had. And it was like a visual letter to my birth mother, but also at the same time, honoring my adopted mother. And I think subconsciously I wanted to get it out and, see if maybe it would reach her. And it got some traction. We went to a handful of film festivals, and yeah, but it never manifested. And I think that's fine, because I ended up a couple of years ago going to a Korean shaman, because I think it had kind of just disturbed me for a long time, what had happened. And it was more just like we had contact after I got back, and it was like apologies and all these things, and then it was like complete ghosting. So I really don't know what happened. But yeah, this Korean shaman told me to stop contacting her, that it was making me physically ill. And it was like this kind of wake up call that, like emotional kind of weight can wreak havoc on your body. And I really had no idea, and so it was like a little bit of kind of a release, I guess. Like I felt like a weight had been lifted just hearing that from somebody else, who didn't even know me, but was basically describing a lot of things I'd experienced in Korea that no one could possibly have known. Like I didn't even tell anybody. So I don't know. I just was like, okay, I believe you, and I'm not going to do that anymore. So, yeah, I think since then I feel like definitely a lot managing my feelings and expectations around it have become a lot healthier.
And how did that change or define the word ancestor for you? How do you relate to that word?
I think when I think of ancestor, it doesn't necessarily mean I have to have contact with them, because I feel like I read somewhere the other day that memories can be passed down something like 14 generations. And so for me, I feel like whether we like it or not, our ancestors, traumas and experiences are just in our bodies. And so I feel like whatever she's feeling, like I'm going to feel whether I'm talking to her or not. And so even with like, my connection to Korea, which is pretty sparse, there's a lot of like holes in information, I still feel like I kind of have this like tie, and so even if I've never met any of my actual ancestors, I still feel like, they're in my body. And yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know if
think
that makes sense.
just like you can have a chosen family in reality,
Hmm.
you can have a chosen ancestral family as well. And that was something that really blew my mind when I figured that out. It was like like you were saying, this weight came off and this
Yeah.
connection to other wisdom that is beyond me and a network of support that felt
Hmm.
so great to have. And you were talking about memories being passed down. I don't know if you've read the book Blood Memory by Martha Graham, but she talks about this and she calls it
That's
the
on my list.
blood memory. Yeah. Yeah. So the blood memory, the memories of your generations before you, but definitely check out that book.
Definitely.
Mhm.
I need to.
Yes. So how did the erotic arts, sex work really, how did that pull you in? Like, what about it drew you to it? And how did that help you in your own healing?
Yeah, I think it was I it was like it started in high school. Even when I was a virgin. So I don't even, it was just things that I was like a fan of, that I was watching. Um, and so I think it is a form of escapism and fantasy. I would dress up with my friends and we would reenact scenarios, or, make kind of these like mini performances for each other, or do these elaborate photo shoots. And I grew up in a small town, so I was basically only whatever I had access to, like magazines or, VHS tapes, or that someone's passing around. I know, it's just, uh, yeah, but those times were really precious. And I think that's when I started exploring what it's like to try on different personas. And I didn't realize it at the time that it was me just trying to escape everything that was going on. But it worked and it helped and I survived. And I think it definitely carried over into my adult life. And I realized that I was able to slip into these kind of like characters. And there was something very natural about that, which it was, yeah, it was like a fun way to be somebody else, for a moment or for a night. And yeah, because, even though I'm a performer, like I'm pretty introverted, but I think it helped me overcome like shyness,
Mm.
is to just kind of slip into these characters or costumes. And, we all know what it's like to come home and take off the wigs and the eyelashes and just, breathe. But there's also something really cool about putting all of those things on. Yeah. So I think that definitely started to heal me in that department. Like it made me feel like I was in my body when I was
Hmm.
dancing or performing, or um, yeah, just being erotic in any way. It just really, I feel like I started to find my voice and my confidence.
Yeah. And art is therapy. Whatever art that you're doing, if you're pursuing it in an authentic and curious manner, and like you can't help but learn about yourself and
Yeah,
grow and heal those wounds that maybe you didn't even know you had.
yeah, I
Do you con-
totally agree.
do you consider yourself a healer for the audience?
Um, yeah, I think it shifts back and forth. And I don't know if you've experienced this also, but I think there were times in my life where I was healing myself. And I would just go out. I needed to dance so bad for me. And I wasn't thinking necessarily about like, how is this coming off, to others. And I think I'm more aware of that now. But perhaps someone witnessing, like complete exorcism of whatever I was doing maybe helped somebody in the audience. But like, I don't know if you felt like that too, where there's moments where you're healing the audience or just focusing on you.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's been a two-way relationship. I can't say that I've never not thought about the audience on stage. I'm always aware of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, but I will say that for the past few years, I've been very interested in what movement I want to do and focusing on what it is that feels good instead of what it is that looks good. And sometimes those
I think
things,
that's so important.
yeah, sometimes those things don't line up. A lot of the things that
A
look
lot of the
good,
things,
right, right. A lot of things that look good definitely don't feel good. So, yeah,
or
so I've
vice
been,
versa.
yeah, exactly. So I've been exploring that more and kind of being like a pleasure hunter, like where where do I feel good in my body and what does my body want to do and listening to that and building that trust between my body and my mind, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then how do you break away from, I guess, because I feel like that awareness kind of creates this like out of body experience where you are kind of focused on like, how does this look? It's like, how do you break away from, only like focusing on the internal experience?
Right. I mean, that's when the performer part kicks in, right? Because you're performing, well, at least in the work that I do. I mean, the work that you do as well, but I think sometimes you maybe don't cross that fourth wall. Um, and it's very much a voyeuristic experience, which is amazing, and I love it. It's so great. But other times you're very confrontational and very up in people's faces, laps, whatever, and really being provocative and challenging those stereotypes that we were talking about earlier. How do you go about challenging these Asian stereotypes and this fetishism in your work?
Um, well, I think I really started by just accepting like what I was doing and basically defying what, you know, my ancestors have done in terms of owning their sexuality. So, like my birth mother had to hide in a apartment basically the entire pregnancy with me. So I think part of me felt like just like being sexy publicly in any form was already kind of being defiant. So I almost felt like, yeah, I guess just existing, doing any sort of erotic
Taking up your
work.
space, right?
Yeah. And so I think it started with just that. And then I did start to use stereotypes just as a way, like I guess, starting point conversation as something that maybe the audience would recognize these like specific tropes, like, the schoolgirl, the kind of like studious teacher, or, um, I guess, yeah,
Can
like
you talk, can you talk
femme
about,
fatale, yeah.
yeah, can you talk about this sushi act?
Oh, with the head, the head
Yeah.
plate.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that kind of started as like a joke. I had made that hat and I thought it would be funny. But then I realized, um, I mean, back before COVID, when we could all share a meal at a public place with strangers.
Right.
Yeah, I just was kind of combining like the stereotype of like the sushi girl, the naked sushi girl at the party that doesn't speak, that's just beautiful. The body is for all of the guests to, gawk over and enjoy. And I think I was thinking about that, but making it mobile, and then I was getting the reactions I was getting from some people were kind of funny, where it's like, if even in a public space, if given the opportunity, there's going to be kind of someone that goes too far, and so I think, yeah, by making it mobile, I could still have the same reaction, but I could also leave.
Exactly.
Also
you have
crawl away.
You have a lot more agency in that.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of what I was thinking. And then I had like a fringe thing to cover the eyes. So it kind of looked like I wasn't watching what was going on, but I was. So just like subtle, I guess.
Yeah. So you were the voyeur and the exhibitionist.
Yeah. Let's see how people, react to this, or if they take too many pieces, or if they try to grab you,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you bring up a good point is, I don't know how that act would translate into this new world that we have. So, how has the pandemic changed your art and also how you feel about what you're doing? I know we were both kind of rolling our eyes about it before we started the interview, so I want to get into it.
Honestly, at first, I was really freaked out. We had talked a little bit early on, and I just had no idea what was going on. Like, there was people getting COVID that were friends of mine. I was like helping my dad with some like eye surgeries, and I was just like, I don't know, like I was not going anywhere. My school shut down. I literally felt like a rug was pulled out from under me. Because, when you're consistently performing weekly for 15 years, I mean, you know how it is. I mean, I was like, what have all these years, like, what have I done to sustain my life when I'm not out in the world? Like, so that was really scary. And then, I basically joined the Cyber Clown Girls, and I started doing all these online shows, and I quickly realized that I was actually really into this medium, or more like exploiting Zoom for what it had to offer. And so I thought it was actually kind of fun for about a year. And because I was like, it's just buying all these lights and controlling lights with one hand, and then doing, I was like doing all this other stuff, doing virtual backgrounds. And so I learned how to basically, use Zoom to produce. And then Wayne Newton and I started Sacred Wounds as like a way to, basically create a space for Asian performers that were working in sex work or sexuality or ritual, doing ancestor work, in a way to kind of combine all of those worlds. And so I was like very, very, very excited about this new world. But then I think everybody was excited because we thought there was going to be an end.
Right. Yeah. We can maintain this for a little bit, right?
Right. And so everyone was excited. I was excited. I was just doing so many things, so many shows, going to school online. My entire life became Zoom. So I feel like communicating everything that I was doing live was it was just like fair game on Zoom. I was like, cool. Like, this is how you use this colored light to, invoke these kinds of emotions. And this music works on Zoom and this music does not work on Zoom because it's Zoom. You can't, like, the slowness and stillness was so much different than live slowness and stillness because, like, the energy wasn't there. You know how that is.
Yes.
So you could just sit here and people are going to be like, this is not interesting at all. So I feel like with Zoom, you kind of are like moving a lot, or there's lights flashing, or there's like a virtual video background going on. So I think I became more aware of that kind of stuff. But then, we took a little bit of a break with Cyber Clown Girls and Sacred Wounds. But I think Sacred Wounds, I think we're going to be back. It's like 1 year since we started in September, which is next month. So we were like, okay, well, I think we should do a year, which is also very surreal because now it was very exciting to do online as like, and then we're going to do a live, or it's okay, we're doing this now so we can all meet in the future. Cool. And then now I'm not sure. And yeah, I think the last, especially month or two, I think, I don't know, my Zoom classes just started to really wear on me and I needed to take a break from Zoom shows. Like I've been on a couple of panels, which has been really cool. But yeah, where I'm at right now, like I don't know. I was actually organizing all of my costumes. And so that was also surreal because I was like holding these objects and not sure what it means. Like, yeah. So I don't know how you feel about it, but it feels like I'm not sure. I felt a little honestly sad and nostalgic. Like, am I gonna wear this fringe beaded bra again? Or
yeah, it's strange because when I look at my costumes, it's like a life that I don't recognize, really.
Yes.
It's like I know I was there. I know I did stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't really recognize that person. And I think how, I know you said you've performed twice since things have opened up, and as have I. And it was emotional the first time. I had a lot of support in the audience and definitely shed some tears. But I think how I came to the stage this time after all of this was very different than how I used to come to the stage. And kind of like how you were talking.
I just got goosebumps. I'm like, yeah.
Like kind of how you were talking about earlier with, like what you're exploring on stage. I think times like I've gone through a lot. I've like dealt and wrestled with a lot of confidence shit, health shit, like comparing myself to other people. Like, even though I might come off as crazy confident on stage, I'm still battling some stuff, right?
And likewise.
Yeah, and we all, we all are. I think we know how to manifest confidence in a physical form, but when it comes to those moments backstage, to where you're feeling just as confident off stage as you are on stage, that takes more effort, right? Because the stage is a safe place. It's a safe place to explore these things, right? But off stage, anything's possible, right? But I think the main thing that I felt differently about when I performed this time around was that I felt more of a generosity, more like I wanted to give. I felt more like open and breathy and expansive about it, rather than like I'm here to prove something, or like I'm here for the money because there's no money. Come on. We know this. So I think that
You're
was
like real talk.
Yeah. What real talk here all day, every day.
Real talk, I had a million other side jobs.
Yeah. Right.
That we never talk about.
Right. So, and I've had a tumultuous relationship with burlesque, I will say, and I've had to do a lot of healing around that. But yeah, I don't know. All my props are in the garage. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not producing.
So too real.
It's so weird. Like there's my panther cage and my bathtub and the garage and, all these other props that people haven't really seen yet. But when I think about producing a show, like a live show, I feel irresponsible about it. Like I feel like, is it time yet? I don't know.
Yeah. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Yeah. I like I said, I was just going through literally dusting, my old props and wondering, is this object, has it run its course for what it needed to say and do? And maybe that is true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that might be true because there's a lot of different stuff to talk about now.
There is.
So
it's so different. And I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine about, what it almost doesn't feel organic or, just there's something that I'm intuitively trying to feel into myself and I don't have answers. I feel like very uncertain right now. Mm-hmm. And that feels weird because I feel, a little flaky because I just feel like I can't be certain where before I was like, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is the kind of acts I do. Take it or leave it. This is me. And I felt very direct and very aggressive about the way I was moving through life. And lately, I just don't feel like that. I don't feel aggressive. I feel like a puddle that's like morphing constantly, and I think that's fine. I have had to come to terms with also some health things and, it's just like so many things were kind of a wake-up call that if I didn't slow down and look into and take care of myself, then I wasn't necessarily going to be in a good place post-pandemic at all.
Yeah, it really forces you to reprioritize what's important to you and where your energy goes. And what is it that you want to say right now? You may not know right now, but I bet it will be different coming up,
Yeah, I think that's this podcast I think is like a really good, space to even discuss these things, these unknown kind of uncertain times. And maybe you'll look back on this time and be like, wow, these were some like really crucial conversations.
It's a little time capsule.
Yeah, it's a little time capsule. 20 years from now, it'd be like, wow, we were going through it.
Oh yeah, we're going through it. I think that's one of the things too is for me is watching other performers do the same acts and like floofy and very burlesque and glam, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me anymore. Like there's so much dissonance for me right now. Like I still enjoy it, it's still there, but the first act that I did back on stage, I danced to Human by Subdelisa.
I love that song.
It wasn't very burlesque at all. I wanted to come out and address the situation. Like
Yeah,
yo, we just went through some stuff, right?
exactly. But I think that's what is so brilliant about your performances is that even in a burlesque space, you can do that and you are able to like transform, and you can be like fans and very, glamour, or you can be really assertive and address things. So I think that's like, I
Yeah.
think either way.
Yeah.
But what the future holds, like, I don't know. I look at all of my like rhinestone costumes and I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm sad or just confused as to.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. Sometimes I feel the pull to the stage, but then I wonder why I feel the pull to the stage. Like one of the things that I was just talking about was that what I miss is feeling special. I miss kind of like that backstage access to life. I
Mhm.
feel like when you're a performer, like you're always on the back lot of life.
Yeah.
You're like let in the side door and like you have a special table or whatever.
Oh, it's great.
And then it's
It's
like,
great.
ooh, so I miss that kind of access, but I'm not even doing anything anymore. So I don't know what I need access to, but I miss that. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you I don't know. I guess like how do you manage these like waves of feelings and.
Yeah. Well, if you're really asking, I do journal therapy, meditation, and I also do. You probably know what this is. Gaga. Do you know what that is?
No.
So it's a dance form, and I'll send you the link for this when
Yeah,
we're done.
please. I
But
am very interested in trying to
oh,
channel
Coco,
all of this stuff.
Coco, it is all about whatever the fuck you want to do. It is just
Great.
like
That sounds great.
wacky. Um, yeah. So it was created by well, he's not anymore, but he was the director of a Batsheva dance company in Tel Aviv.
Mhm.
And it's just this whole exploratory movement language. Um, and it's just improv for like an hour. You just dance in a strange way in your living room for like an hour.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So
That's how I wake
that's,
up in the morning.
yeah. So like that's what I've been doing to kind of deal with myself. But also like you studying and going to school and training and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think just like it might take on different forms. Maybe
mhm.
there's a film that's being, like in the works. Maybe there's a book or maybe, there's a blog. I have no expectations of what this thing is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the bottom line is you're an artist, and that can take many different forms. And that energy is in you. And so, however that gets expressed, whether that be in the same way it was before or you find a new way, we will always find a way to express what it is we need to
We will
express.
always find a
We will
way.
always find it. I
Yeah.
think we've proven that time and time again. Um, so tell me about your project, Private Practices, because it looks incredible.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that came about. I was introduced to Haley Lohman, who's the director of Los Angeles Contemporary Archives, and I had donated some zines that I made when I very first started doing kind of performance art that was based on my experiences as a stripper, a sex worker, and just discussing like the confessional aspect and like just me, I think, viewing it like as a space for connection. Maybe it's evolved now how I feel about, all of those projects. But yeah, so I did a couple of zines with my collaborator, Luca. And yeah, she archived them, and they were just, sitting there for, a few years now. And then we had talked about just archiving more Asian artists who are former sex workers or current sex workers, and just basically wanting to tell kind of like this like wide, this like breadth of this story, this narrative, that everyone has a different story. And then also like all these different stories, how they also might have connecting points or kind of like similar experiences. But she was particularly interested in like oral histories and basically like ephemera, like notes on, paper at hotels, or, journal entries. And one of the performers, Mariko Passion, has basically an 11-year blog that we printed out. And it is like, it's just such a, like, it has just such depth of this, like, over a decade of like very detailed experiences. So yeah, we collected stuff like that. Like I donated some shoes. We have like a lot of performers donated, clothing items or shoes or things that like one of the artists donated like a costume that was like her grandmother's, who was a dancer. And I mean, just things like that, I don't think at the time I was like thinking like, oh, one day this is going to be a show. And I think at the time I was just keeping things just because I didn't know what to do with them, or I thought maybe I'd use them. But then as we started talking to some, other performers that were interested in donating things, and obviously like it's just going to be an ongoing archive. I was like, wow, this is really important to get these stories,
yes.
Especially after the Atlanta shootings. And I was like, wow, these stories are from the people themselves saying, this is my experience, not some other person's, interpretation. And so I think that's what Haley was interested in archiving, is like those experiences from the mouths of those people who had done the work.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much how it started.
And we can see it. It's open to the public, or is
It's open, yeah, till the end of the month. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, basically, LACA is cool because it's kind of acts as like a public library space. So you can just go in and like check stuff out. So even when it's done, there'll be like boxes of the ephemera that you can.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And it's like on the online database. So things are getting scanned in, throughout the month. So you'll be able to like see, dirty stripper shoes from like, I don't know, 2006 or whatever.
I love it. Yes. Yes. So where can people go to check it out online if they can't make it in person?
LACA, LACARCHIV.com. So it's LACA Archive, but there's only one A. Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds so fantastic. So one more question before I let you go. Who are some Asian performers that you admire, past or present?
Oh, there's so many. Well, now that I feel like I've been introduced to many in, all over, and, Calamity Chang really introduced me through Asian Burlesque Festival to just like so many incredible performers. And I feel like it kind of changed my perspective on like, wow, here we are. This is, really cool.
So you don't feel so alone, and you're like, look at this.
Yeah. So I just thought it was so cool. Like, here we are defying our ancestors together. And So yeah, she's definitely somebody that's been really amazing. I love Crocodile Lightning's
But see,
performances and work.
are you defying the ancestors, or
Or are
are you
we?
speaking and expressing things they wish they could have?
I view it as that,
Yes.
actually,
Yes.
but maybe some people view it as defying. But yeah, yeah, I love Crocodile Lightning. Kim Ye is another performer. Ibuki Kuramochi is amazing. I love Silly Tan's performances, and some past. I love Shigeko Kubota, who was briefly a performer, more like video artist. And I actually really love Yayoi Kusama's like video performances and work. I think those are not shown a lot, but they're super important and pretty trippy and have inspired me for sure. Yeah, and Yoko Ono. I love Yoko Ono's work, and
Your
just that
namesake, of course.
I know, my namesake, and that I actually, what I love about her is that she's evolved.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she's definitely kind of what we've been talking about, where it's just like letting yourself evolve, um, you know, wherever that takes you. So whether it's erotic or not, it's all fine and it's all important. So yeah. Yeah. And, Wang Newton's been like an amazing, co-producer, and just, I think, has a lot of really unique points of reference as
And
a drag
hilarious.
king. Hilarious, and just like, yeah, as a drag king. And yeah, I think they definitely have taken like a unique route to their career.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Coco, and sharing your stories and being vulnerable. Where can
Thank you.
everyone find you and stay up to date on all your amazing happenings?
Um, my Instagram is at coco.ono, and my personal Instagram is at kayla.tonke. And yeah, I generally post there, not so much on Facebook, but mostly Instagram. And then my websites are connected to my Instagrams.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You. Yes. Okay, everybody, time to spread your legs and spread the love. Like us, follow, share, and subscribe. You can follow us here at I Look Down There, or go to lookdownthere.com/the-show for all of our past episodes from season 1. And you can follow me at Michelle Lamore. And remember that confidence comes from the bottom up. So grab a mirror and look down there. Till next time.